That's your boy Gooch.
That is the homie Keys.
And this is RogueHead Huddle presented by RGR Football. Gooch, pay the bills.
We appreciate all y'all that have checked us out. Go back, look at other videos on RGR, subscribe, become a member. Join the Discord, talk to me, Keys, the Modfather, Dan, Jeff, Avery. Check out the RGR merchandise store, Rogue Analytics. Ryan has a draft guide every year. Check that out. And take this walk with us, y'all. It's going to be a good one.
Oh, it is. All right. Let's just get right to it. Some of your thoughts on Sunday's loss.
I have plenty. I think the defense should be embarrassed. I think Mahomes probably should have been benched for his mistakes. Nah, I'm not saying he should be benched forever. I'm just saying more established quarterbacks have been benched for the kind of play that Mahomes is exhibiting right now, even Brady. And I think somebody has to hold this team accountable. I don't know where the fire is. I don't know if they just stopped listening to Andy. I don't know if the one Super Bowl and then back-to-back Super Bowl appearances and the fat paychecks have got them assuming that this game is easy all of a sudden. I don't know if the Golden State Warriors talk has gotten to their head and they think we'll coast through the season and turn it on for the playoffs. But Sunday was a good old-fashioned butt whooping. It was one of those behind the woodsheds tail kickings. And if they're not professional athletes, if they're not embarrassed after that loss, I don't know what else you can do. I was embarrassed for them, and I'm not even on the team. It just no fight whatsoever. Hopefully they come back, and the problem is that I'm okay with a loss if it was close. This one wasn't even close. This was, and you're going to see Tennessee in the playoffs. You're going to. Obviously they did great against the run, but man, it's almost like this defense is a jack of all trades and a master of none. Like Henry didn't hit 100 yards, Tannehill carved us up. It was just ugly. You?
Well, let me put on my smart glasses here.
Oh, here we go.
Well, I think that jack of all trades, I'm thinking jack of basically no trades. No. I don't think that at all, and I haven't went back to watch all of the film yet for this last game. But I think that in some ways the game plan got executed. I'm not going to hold it. Well, first off, they did their job with the run defense. They held Henry to 3 yards per carry. And I know some people say, well, they started to take it easy on us. That might be true, but they also realized that Nick Bolton was Derrick Henry's daddy. And so if there's a point where I was feeling bad for Derrick Henry because Nick Bolton was owning him in this game. So there's that, but I think there's also some of the big plays they had on offense. They did exactly what I said I wanted you to make them do, which was Tannehill make a great throw and his receiver make a great catch. The one on the sideline there that was initially ruled an incomplete, I'm going to take these off because it's ridiculous, but the one that was an incomplete with Snead there, I mean, Snead was on him step for step. He even tried to punch the ball out at the end. It was just a great catch. It was a great job to get both feet in, which the refs initially missed. It was a great pass to throw it in the exact spot where Snead couldn't get to it, and somehow Tannehill's receiver could. And when those plays happen, you have to tip your cap to the quarterback and the receiver. And those are the kind of plays that I wanted to see this defense, I wanted to see Spags force them to do. They made 2 or 3 of those plays, and good for them. The issue is they gave up what I said they couldn't, which was the easy passes over the middle. And the stupid things like we're still having issues with screens and we're letting quarterbacks scramble for 8, 9, 10 yards, picking up first downs, and we're not putting any hits on them and making them regret their decision or to rethink their decision halfway through their scramble. And those are the kind of issues that I think are still huge problems with this defense. Why we're somehow not able to identify a screen, why we're letting a quarterback run at will. You know, I won't even count the Derrick Henry touchdown pass against them because, you know, it's just that type of play. What are you going to do? You know, sometimes the opposing team just gets you, and that's kind of a got you play. And we like it when usually the Chiefs are on that side of things. We're the gotcha team. Sometimes it just happens. I don't think you can get mad about that as a defense. What you can say, and probably what you're thinking is, well, you don't let them march the ball all the way down the field to get to that point anyway. And that's completely fair. You know, the first couple drives or so looked really bad. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Like, I understand that Spags makes really good second half adjustments, and he's done that over the last year or two. If you look at last year's team, the Chiefs were like, their defense was number 1 in the third quarter in points allowed. And the last couple of games we've seen, they've come out and shut out the opponent in the second half. And you can question how much Tennessee was really trying in this game in the second half. But regardless, these adjustments have to come quicker. I don't know what that process is going to look like for them, but they have to come quicker. But at least they came, whereas the offensive adjustments seem to not come at all, really. As evidenced by you score 3 points. Like, you score 3 points in this game. 3 points. Like, how does that happen with Patrick Mahomes healthy, with Tyreek Hill healthy, with Travis healthy? How does that happen? I bet Sammy Watkins was laughing. Like, how does that happen? I think some of it is because we've had all these little issues over the last year that have kind of went, you know, they don't get noticed. In the Super Bowl, again, we had the O-line, you know, the backup O-line. For most of the time, it's always the defense. Well, there's still offensive issues that are going on as well that still need to get corrected. So for me, this was just like, as optimistic as I can be about this is to really hope that Andy and Spags really have completely different game plans that they're going to roll out eventually, but that they were trying to wait for the playoffs to surprise teams. You know, like that's the most optimistic as I can get, is that they didn't want to expose their offensive and defensive plans to other teams early in the season, and that they were trying to hold off as long as they could. Like, and that's kind of a conspiracy theory. It's out there. That's my best attempt at being optimistic about what we saw. I think they can get better moving forward at things, but I mean, it's just embarrassing. And I think where fans are frustrated is we haven't been able to beat a playoff quality team, either a team that was in the playoffs last year, with the exception of the Browns, or a team that I like to make the playoffs this year, which I'm not so sure on the Browns when it looks like the Ravens and and Bengals are the two better teams in that division. So, as I said, I think we have a good chance, as I said elsewhere, I think we have a good chance when we play a team that doesn't either have an above average quarterback and or an above average head coach. But right now, this game is embarrassing. And again, you mentioned being embarrassed. They don't seem to have a problem with it because the way they're coming out after getting embarrassed in the Super Bowl, after getting embarrassed in the Bills game, did they come right out and look great the next game? Not really. Do I expect they're going to come out and look great this next game? I sure hope so, because if they don't, then I'm going to be really concerned that they're not getting embarrassed, that they're not putting in more efforts, that they don't hate losing enough. Like, you need to have at least a small fraction of hatred for losing as Tom Brady does. Like, the amount of hatred he has for losing in one pinky, you have to at least have that. Because if not, you should just retire and find a different
profession
way to spend your time.
I'm going to put a topper on that. And I'm going to be the realist here, folks, because Keys is the optimist. We've got the Giants, the Packers, and the Cowboys coming up. 3-0 and 2-1 is what you want out of that. If they go 1-2 or 0-3, there is no playoffs for this team. Now you're just playing to get the worst of the rest of the picks. Because it's not going to, it's like everybody's like, oh, look who we've played, and the season's going to mellow out. The problem is that it's not. Like, the Giants are playing good football. There's Aaron Rodgers in the Packers, and believe that Devontae and that other receiver is not going to be on the COVID protocol when we go to play them. And the Cowboys are playing probably better than anybody. So it's not getting any easier. If we can't win those games, we got the Chargers again one more time, the Broncos twice, and we already played the Raiders. Do we have the Raiders twice or just once more?
Yeah, we haven't played the Raiders yet, have we?
So it's going to get it's if they don't right the ship in the next 3 weeks, if they don't find something. I was having a comment with on the last huddle, a gentleman asked me, and I can't remember his name. Shout out to you if you're watching this stuff. Hit me in the comments. We had a discussion, and he asked me, he thought 9-8 is what he saw. And I told him that at best, at the rate that they're playing. The worst case scenario is that they go less than 500 and don't make the playoffs. And I never really bought into the Super Bowl hangover. But something isn't right with this team. And I'm scared in the next 3 weeks, instead of 3-5, we're looking at 4-7. And a 3 or 4 game deficit in the AFC West. And now you're just playing spoiler, which I don't know how many of you are alive as old as I am, but we've played spoiler for a lot of years. And I really don't want to see us revert back to that. That's all I have on it. Oh, one more thing. One of our former colleagues, Thunder Dan 88, says that the Chiefs are going to turn it around. They have one good game, they have one bad game. Well, somebody tell him that equals 8-9. If they follow that trend, and that's not turning it around. That's just treading water. Anyway, I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm the optimistic one. I think that's kind of scary because I find it hard to believe that we can win 2 out of those 3 games. Based on what I said, I think I'm expecting the Chiefs to beat the Giants, and if they don't beat the Giants, and that isn't a wake-up call, which at this point they shouldn't need another wake-up call, but if that somehow is rock bottom, because we do know people who you think they've hit rock bottom, and then you find out no, there's actually another level lower. That's rock bottom, only to find out nope, that wasn't even rock bottom yet. That might be the case, but hopefully we haven't gotten there. But like I said, I think there's right now I still feel somewhat comfortable playing a team that either has an average or worst quarterback or an average or worst coach, and even better, if it has both. And so I think I see the Giants as that team. So I feel somewhat, but not at all like secure in even that. But then again, what were you telling me about? Was it Dallas and the Patriots? Is that what you're telling me? Where the Patriots were in that game and they shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
So I mean, you never know, but you're going to have to see the Chiefs' offense and defense and special teams that we have yet to see this season, really. So I don't know. Ready to move on?
Absolutely.
All right. So this is kind of something that we've been hearing a lot, whether it's in comments or other videos or whatever, is this idea of allowing Patrick to be Patrick. So that said, let me just go ahead and put this up here, and we'll go ahead and switch over to this. And you want to say anything about allowing Patrick be Patrick?
It is. If you are one of the select few that believes Patrick Mahomes can do no wrong, you're going to want to turn this off and come back in about 5 minutes. Allowing Patrick to be Patrick was great when I don't want to say teams didn't have an answer for him, but teams didn't have an answer for him. And you'll hear, oh, the league's caught up with Patrick, yada, yada. No, it's not. The problem is Patrick has caught up to Patrick. Because high school, college, first couple years in NFL, backyard football, flinging it all over the yard, looking for the big plays, scoring a bunch of points, and fans and new face of the league and blah, 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 blah. That's great. You know what the problem, Patrick, is? He doesn't know how to work with an O-line. His footwork is atrocious. He doesn't know how to step up in the pocket. He basically backs himself into sacks. That Tennessee game, yes, Brown got beat. Yes, Rimmers got beat. But if you follow the play, if Patrick doesn't take his normal 10-step drop, they push those edge rushers behind him. And all he has to do is step up in the pocket, which Creed and Trey and Thuney had the front part of that line, middle of that line, solid, locked in. All he had to do was step up and find the man. He's trying to get, he grabs that ball, he backs up, and he thinks that backing up because his strong arm, that eventually people are going to get free. You know what? They're not. Because you won't take the easy check down. There's a couple plays, shout out to Dan Orlovsky, whatever. He put on Twitter where Jarrett McKinnon was out in the flat, could have had an easy 10, 15, 20 yards, but Mahomes is too busy looking down the field at a covered Travis Kelce and a covered Tyreek Hill. And then he comes all the way back when the play's pretty much done and tries to get it to McKinnon in the flat so he can only get 3 yards. Like, I don't know what you've got to do, but somebody needs to tell Patrick that everybody the defenses are faster. Everybody processes faster, and unlike in the Big 12, which he knows, I'm sure he knows, because he continuously says, I can't make those decisions, but you keep making them, which means in the back of your head, eventually somebody's going to get free. Well, what is this, his third year? 2 years of Tyreek running behind your defenses, embarrassing people, is going to get 2 to 3 people on him. He's not going to get 180 yards in one shot. He's not going to be able to run free because people are going to be spying him and running with him and handing him off. And same with Travis. They're going to clog the middle. They're going to make you throw to Pringle and Gordon whenever he decides to see the field, and Hardman, and throw out in the flat, things that you neglect to do. Somebody's got to hold that kid accountable. $500 million or not. It's time. I hate saying system QB because it diminishes. Brett Favre was a system QB. Brady's basically a system QB. Hell, Aaron Rodgers is a system QB. But it's time for him to think more like them. Like, Brady keeps winning because he takes what the defense gives him with the occasional shot down the field. He's not looking down the field every single play. Snap, 2 seconds. Oh, you're giving me this 4-yard out? Okay. And then that 4 turns into 7. Now it's 2nd and 3. You know what I'm seeing from Patrick? Snap, 1st and 10. Nobody's open. Throw at the feet. Back, sack. Back, over the head. Throw some lame duck up in the air. And now that's going to get me into another topic. Oh, I'm ranting today. Tyreek Hill, somebody made a mention that Tyreek Hill catches more with his body than his hands. And my partner here has even said he needs to get on the jugs machine and figure his hands out. Here's the thing. Tyreek is technically an elite receiver. He catches the ball like he's a return specialist. He is great catching it with his body, but when he wants to catch it with his hands, he doesn't look it into his hands. He sees the pass coming, he has his hands up, and he's got his head back because he's trying to see where he can make a move. Because he's thinking big play instead of catch this ball, take this 10, let's keep going. He wants to make the big play. And you know what the jugs machine is great in theory. You know what it doesn't do? Throw the ball at Patrick's ankles. Throw the lame ducks up in the air. You get the same ball all the time, easy to catch. I mean, the jugs machine is great if you want to feel confident, but not every ball is going to be like that out of the jugs machine. And he just needs to look the ball into his hands. Stop trying to catch it like it's a punt. Catch it with your hands. Go down. You don't have to catch it and jump back and try to make somebody miss to make a big play. All we need is 10. 10 and the chains keep moving. Okay, I think I'm done. Your turn.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And I guess I'll start with Tyreek since that's where you left off if I forget it. But watching Tyreek, and I'm going to put this in terms for our younger viewers, is like when you're playing Madden and you use the aggressive catch or the catch that lets you run with the ball afterwards instead of using hitting the button to make the secure catch, the conservative catch. So that's what Gooch is talking about. There is Tyreek is catching it and always looking to run it up. And there was at least one play, if not two, I'm thinking of on Sunday, where Tyreek was looking like D-Rob in that he ran back like 6 or 8 yards, and he wasn't ever to even get back to the point where he was when he was catching. And I don't know, I'm sure someone will say, well, that's an example of, our playmakers pressing. Well, that and Travis catching the ball, and every time he catches the ball, he looks forward to someone to pitch it to. whatever the case is, like, no, let's not do that. I don't know if there's anything else that I want to add to Patrick being Patrick, other than, like, if you're fine with him not growing at all, then, you might say that. Allow Patrick to be Patrick. If you're saying that, then clearly you think he's already amazing. There's no reason for him to grow. And in my opinion, that's kind of a sorry mentality to have. Like, you should always be looking to grow. Like, you've never made it. And the moment you think that you've made it, that you're on top, somebody's going to be coming along to knock you off of the top. Like, that's just the way it is. We're looking at a 44, 45-year-old. This is where Gooch would be saying, I can't believe you're making me praise him right now. But you can look at a 44, 45-year-old Tom Brady right now, and he has that mentality. I personally think he's only playing because he's afraid of Patrick passing him over at some point. But the reality is, the man is still driven to be at the top. And so you have to continually want to get better. And if we don't want him to get better, or if he doesn't want to get better, then I think what you're going to see is that he starts getting worse at things. I'm going to go here and I'm going to draw from jazz music. If you want to be a great jazz musician, you got to learn all the rules first so that you can understand how and when to break the rules. And I think that kind of explains what we need to see Patrick. Like, he's got to get to the point to where he can do all these things the right way. And then, once he is good at the rules and playing within the rules, then when those moments come, he can do it all at his best. And I think that's like the big thing here is, like, you don't have to completely stop being himself, but he still has to keep growing and learn how to do all these other things well. But even then, some of these things we do not want to see. There's just some habits that Gooch said that you do not want to see from your quarterback, especially one who's getting paid $500 million. Listen, he's not getting paid to be $500 million to be the quarterback he was in sophomore season. He's getting paid to be a professional and to continue to get better. That's what an investment is.
I'm with you.
Got anything you want to add?
One final thing. He threw the 5,050. He won the Super Bowl, got back to the Super Bowl and lost. And we were quick to crown him the new GOAT. Baby GOAT is what I heard. Gonna eventually pass Brady. I want you to sit for it, and I want you to think. Shout out to Arrowhead Pride, because this is where I read it, and it is absolutely true. Right now, as it stands, his career path, Mahomes' career path, is equal to that of Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. Super Bowl title, yes. Back to the Super Bowl, back to back, yep. Lost, yep. And you know what happened after that for the next 10 years? Playoffs. That's it. And I know that I was doing some digging today. I don't have exact figures. Keys might, because I think we've talked about this before. And it's only because we ended on the $500 million investment. We have almost $60 million in our defense right now. 20-something for Frank, 20-something for Jones, almost 19 for Matthew.
Yeah, you were saying we have about $75 million in just 4 defensive players.
Just
those 4
I mean,
guys,
it's not that we're not investing in the defense. because we are obviously investing in great players who have shown to be great. Well, hang on, because we'll get to that. Chris Jones, who has shown to be the second best defensive tackle in the NFL behind only Aaron Jones. Matthew, the Swiss Army knife, who, I mean,
Aaron
really
Donald.
does.
He means Aaron Donald.
Who did I say?
Said Aaron Jones.
Oh,
we all
Aaron
know
Donald.
who you meant.
Yeah. Matthew doing his thing. He's probably the best at it. Now Frank and BJ, this is where BJ Kissel. This is where you got some splaining to do, buddy. And Thunder and whoever else thinks that 5 sacks for a Super Bowl title is worth the $20 million, because these last 2 years it ain't worth $20 million a season. And he's laughing on the sideline during a butt kicking because I think he knows he's out of here. Chiefs aren't going to pay him $25 next year, which is what is it, 25? I think it's 29. They're not paying him that. He's gone, but he's got what he wanted. We got what we wanted, which was he helped us win a Super Bowl title, which he did. And for the next 2 years, he got what he wanted, $40+ million with no effort. And we're going to cut him. He's going to do a suspension for the gun thing. Some other team is going to sign him for $6-7 million a year, but he's already rich. And we need to cut back. We saved $20 million when we cut him. I was going to do this on the live. I'm just going to throw this out there. Shout out to Shaggy Shane, because this is where I got it from. And is it a good idea? Kinda. Cut Frank. Jones and Matthew are basically auditioning whether they're going to stay on this team next year or we're going to find some trade partners and then start investing. Tyreek's 28 in March. If the season's lost, he's only going to be that fast for so long. Get what you can get out of him right now and just start rebuilding now so that it's not a rebuild, it's a retool. Because Andy's offense obviously works. By all metrics, it still works. But something's not happening. Something's getting lost in translation. Maybe it's just that we talk going back to fundamentals, but nobody's coaching fundamentals. Something is wrong with this team on an institutional level. We got to figure it out. Or if we already considering this loss, we got to start exploring, hey, what can we get for Ty? What can we get for Frank? Which is nothing. We're going to have to cut him. No more Sorensen. Hitchens is gone. That saves you almost $10 million in cap space. Frank will save you 20. I think Keys put something in his, and I don't want to misquote you, Keys, but I think you posted something whether in the Discord or Twitter where you said if Matthew wouldn't tie his value to guaranteed money, he might get a longer contract. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you said, but I thought I read it. But I think it's almost, I think you have to start. Ryan says his finger isn't on the panic button. Mine is. And I love this team. This isn't a bandwagon fan. I grew up on this team. My father worked for this team as part-time. I was in that stadium at a young age. So this isn't like blow it up, this team sucks, yada, yada. No. I'm just saying at some point, Beach and Andy, if they're staying, you need to really look at, are we lost for this year? And do we need to bring in younger? Because Tyreek's 28 in March, which means the last season of his contract, he's 29. And the only receiver I've seen maintain that kind of speed after 30 is Deshaun Jackson. What do you think, Keith? Am I overboard on this?
I'm going to work backwards again here and say, we've also never seen a quarterback do what Brady is doing at his age. So I think one, there's an element where the science and the technology are advanced right now. So, and they continually get more advanced as we go along. And so, there's a place where you could say, maybe Tyreek can do it longer than most guys simply because, medically, technologically, with things like recovery and all the things we know about recovery and all the things we know about working out to where that weren't necessarily known even 5 years ago, to where,
Right.
maybe that prolongs Tyreek's ability to have speed. But Tyreek also kind of brings up an interesting point as well that goes back to the whole Mahomes Patrick being Patrick discussion, which is, are you okay with Tyreek being who Tyreek is now? Or if Tyreek could have his speed and Devontae Adams route running, would you not want him to have both? And that kind of goes back to what we're saying about Mahomes is like, yeah, Mahomes is pretty good right now with the stuff he does have, but he could be even better. He could be that true cyborg where you take pieces of every great quarterback and put them together and you have Mahomes crafted. Or he can just continue to be where he's at. And, if that happens and at some point he's kind of mailing it in on the ability he already has and he's not improving on it. The Matthew comments, for me, I know there's people out there that say it's not about the money, then what's it about? Because if it's about the length of the contract, it's ultimately about the guaranteed money. Because that's how NFL contracts work. The Chiefs could give someone a 40-year contract if they wanted to, and if the guaranteed money isn't there year after year, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? They could give Matthew a 40-year contract. Each year could be worth $20 million. And if none of that's guaranteed, then guess what? Year after year, whatever year they want to cut him, they just cut him.
Yep.
He wouldn't take that contract because he wants guaranteed money. It's the only thing that makes the length of the contract matter. But the guaranteed money, the length doesn't matter. So you cannot say he wants a longer contract and in the same breath say, but it's not about the money, because it has to be about the money. It has to be. The two go together. Whether he symbolizes length of contract with, again, because it's necessarily, you have to have the guaranteed money to ensure you get your full contract. So if he's making it about, well, the length of my contract tells me how much the Chiefs value me, it still comes back about to the money, and I think that's where the disconnect is. It's like, Gooch is a businessman. He has a business mind, so he understands he's not going to make an investment for the future that is going to rapidly deteriorate. We all kind of like money, or we deal with having money, and if we have to deal with money because that's how the world works, we at least don't away as much as we can. I don't know many people out here who find something they want to buy and then go look online to see if they can find it way more expensive somewhere else so that they can buy it there. That's generally not how we work. And so as a 29-year-old safety, and I don't know what the future holds for the Chiefs defense. I don't know what it holds for Spags. Clearly if for whatever reason Spags doesn't come back, I believe he's at his contract's up at the end of this year. I haven't found anything that said he signed an extension, but if someone knows where that story is and you want to link it in the comments, go ahead and do so. If I'm wrong on this, I believe coordinator contracts are three years old. Spags started after everyone else because he started, because we had Bob Sutton. And so He started after the enemy. So I believe that means that Spag's contract is up at the end of this year. If for whatever reason, he wouldn't be getting fired, he just wouldn't be getting renewed. If for whatever reason they went in a different direction, maybe they blow the whole thing up on defense at that point. But at that point, you don't have Tyrann Mathieu because you have to tag him, and if you tag him, his tag number is somewhere around $23 or $24 million. And then if you do not either immediately extend him or immediately trade him, now you're stopping yourself from being able to do everything you need to do in free agency. So it's kind of if you were going to trade Tyrann, you got to do it by next Tuesday type of thing. Otherwise, you kind of have to have something worked out with another team of, hey, if you want him, we'll tag him and then we'll trade him to you, and you can work out a deal with him then. Otherwise, he becomes a free agent, and that team's competing with, some of the 30 other teams that would like to have Tyrann Mathieu. And so I don't even remember what else you said, but we were talking about Patrick being Patrick, and here we are talking about all this stuff. So, but it does kind of go into the next topic I want to talk about here. This is a kind of a long one down here, but I'm going to sum it up. Basically, we have seen now multiple teams, and especially the Titans this last Sunday, the Ravens, these two teams in particular. The Ravens, before we even played them, had multiple people go down, multiple running backs, multiple wide receivers, multiple defensive backs, and then offensive linemen. They lost Ronnie Stanley before we played them, their best offensive lineman. They had to move Villanueva over to left tackle, which should have meant that we feasted. Okay, we played the Titans. The Titans had nobody in their secondary, really. They were a wounded secondary. And how many times have we said this, by the way, this year? Multiple teams we've played that were missing players, that were wounded, and it should have made our job easier. It should have made it easier for our defensive line to get pressure on the opponents. It should have made it easier on our receivers and our quarterback to find open receivers or in the passing game. And yet, with all these teams we played that had players missing in the secondary, players missing on the offensive line, missing some of their own weapons, we didn't see drop-offs in their performance. We were not able to gain any kind of leg up in that. And yet, when we lose a player, it completely screws up everything. So, in one way or another, answer this question for me, Gooch here. Because if our problem is player personnel, why is it that we seem to be the only team who, one, can't take advantage of other teams' injury issues, but two, if we have even one injury, like it screws everything up, while other teams seem to be able to plug and play inferior players without missing a beat?
Because it is not player personnel problem. And to quote the great Ryan Tracy, it is because Spags and Reed are stubborn. Because they're running the same plays out of the same formation. And yes, Reed's playbook is legendary in its complexity. But he's running the same plays. He's not even running variations of play. Same plays. Spags is running the same defense. And they believe that in the end, their stuff will be better than your stuff. And right now, it's not working because I'm almost betting they're running the same 15 plays from last year, just in a different order. And the teams are studying to give the Chiefs their best shot. And so they're like, oh, all right, so they're starting with play 7 today, guys, based on the formation. And they know how to stop it. Andy Reid is an innovative mind. He is. I think he just believes in his stuff too much. To think that maybe, I hate saying this about Hall of Fame coach who has over 200 wins. Maybe he's now drinking his own Kool-Aid. Listening to people say how an innovative genius he is and his offense is legendary and this, that, and the other. And maybe at the end of the day, he just thinks, you know what? I'm going to stick my guys out there with my plays and I'm ready to stop. And problem is they have been. That's what I think. I don't think it's player personnel. I think it's coaching. Peace.
Well, you guys heard it there. Gooch does not think that Brett Veach is the problem. It's the coaching staff. Yeah. You know what? All I know, the biggest thing I know is that it's frustrating to see. Like, I don't think it's, again, as you said, I don't think it's so much player personnel as much as it is what we're seeing with the coaching staff, because I have no other way to explain it, right? These other coaches are not having an issue. And it's not necessarily like they have more talented rosters than we do. Some of them might at this point. But what we're seeing seems to suggest to me that it is a coaching issue. And some of that is it's frustrating, it's all frustrating for us as fans because we don't have any control over it. We had to watch multiple weeks of Spags wrongfully playing Sorensen over Thornhill, despite what Dirty Thunder would like us to believe about Sorensen's ability out there on the field. And so, I mean, we've seen it. Like, we've seen some of the issues with our own eyes, and whether, like, they either had to see it themselves, and they've either been, stubborn or persistent, just thinking, eventually this is going to go away. Right? Like, you can't have it both ways, though, because last year, the stuff that we were doing statistically was unsustainable. The one-score games that we were winning. We were 8-1. I think five or six of those were a field goal or less. We were like 4-1 or 5-1 in games that were decided by a field goal. That is dumb luck. It's not really repeatable. And yet we did it. So I think on the opposite side, you can't really be stubborn and say, okay, well, eventually the turnovers are going to stop. Well, imagine if, an opposing coach said, well, eventually the Chiefs are going to stop losing these one-score games. Well, they won 8 out of 9, so, that would be dumb. But, things have a way of coming back towards the mean there and averaging out. Well, that didn't happen last year with the one-run game or the one-score games, and I don't think that we can just count on it with the turnovers. And part of that is going to be in how they're practicing and what they're doing. But to get back to the actual question is, to me, it's clearly somewhere along the line, it's a coaching thing. And if it's not a coaching thing, then I have no clue. Could we use some better players at some positions? Yeah, we definitely could. But do I think
there is nobody better than Dan Sorensen? Okay, I was kidding. My bad.
Do I think that our starters are worse than another team's second string? Like, tell me what starters we have currently, not the ones that were wrongfully allowed to start, throughout these games. But what starters on our team are worse than a second string on other teams? Like, what starter? Is there one? If there was, it'd probably be on the defensive line.
I mean, I don't know. Is Neiman starting?
I was going to say, unless we're counting Neiman as a starter.
And I mean, is he? I think Neiman is probably third string on most teams.
I think if you look at the unofficial or official, whatever it is, depth chart, I think he's actually listed as a starter. With well, if you look at that, I believe what I saw, Bolton and Gay are listed as second string. So I'll just leave that at that. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, though, you get what I'm saying, right? Like, and yet, if we lost one of our guys, one of our starters, basically anywhere, we're going to see a huge drop off. Or as fans, we're going to make excuses. What was it the first few weeks? Well, we need to see the team with Tyron out there and Frank out there and Chris out there and now Hitchens out there, everybody healthy, all of our guys, all 11 guys healthy. Well, we've just played how many teams where all 11 guys on defense weren't healthy, and we just played the Titans and their secondary didn't have all their guys, and we still scored 3 points against them.
Well, now that would be an offensive thing. So which one of our guys, now the question is, which one of our guys that are starters are worse than the second string defense of the Titans? Is that Hardman, Pringle, D-Rob? Well, we know D-Rob. I mean, 3 points. 3 points is so bad. I don't get it. They don't pay me to get it. I just don't get it.
My point was, though, like, if you look at one defense compared to another, right, like, teams are losing defensive players, and they're still able to make it right now, having lost players.
I think that comes down once again. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think it all comes back to coaching. Spags makes adjustments. And for those of you who follow me on Twitter, which is new for me, Twitter's new for me, I said I would start a petition to bring in Rex Ryan. Spags makes great halftime adjustments, apparently, because our second half defense is really good. The problem is they're not good in the first half. And I don't know if it's because, and I just said that they don't, they got embarrassed. I really think that the defense doesn't like being embarrassed. At least the leaders of the defense, Chris Jones, Tyrann Mathieu. Juan Thornhill doesn't like to lose and doesn't like to be embarrassed. So when the changes come, they adapt to them and they start shutting these teams down. The problem is that in the first half, we've been letting them go. I think Key said something really kind of smart on Twitter on Sunday. And once again, I'm going to try to quote, but I'm probably going to do it wrong. Andy needs to stop deferring. That this defense, that the way that they built it is built to play with a lead. And it's hurting the team because they're deferring to get that, last points before the half and then the first points in the second half kind of Belichick thing. But that would be great if our defense could stop molasses. But it can't in the first half of games. And so when the offense finally gets on the field, they're down 7-0. And I just think, I think it's all coaching. I think it's coaching. And that starts at the top from the Big Red all the way down to Brendan Daly, who's the line coach, right? And I think the culture is great. I think the fundamentals have been forgotten, and I think they're either being too stubborn, too stagnant, or they've lost the locker room. Those are really the only three choices.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure. The whole deferring thing. I think that's more for those who want to say that the offense is pressing because of the defense. Like, if you truly believe that, then you should want this team to get the ball first, get up by a touchdown, and then, not have to worry about it, because even if they don't make stops back and forth, the offense has had a chance to either be ahead or tied through at least two possessions. I mean, I think it's kind of absurd anyway, because they're used to having pressure on them the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't believe that they really have any more pressure on them. But if you do believe that, then you should want the Chiefs to have the ball first. Now, when you wouldn't want them to have the ball first is if you don't have any confidence in the offense coming out.
Yep.
And I don't think that Andy does, really. And I think probably part of that is because he relies so heavily on those first 15 or 16 scripted plays, to where he's so busy there finding out what the opposing defense is going to do, that somewhere along the way, he forgets, well, we have to get first down, and then get another first down, and get another first down, and we got to score here. Whatever
Right.
it is, whether it's Patrick coming out all hyped up, or different receivers or whatever, at some point you got to get with 21st century, and you got to have a mental intelligence person on your team. I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase that, but like a not mental health, but a mental, like, side of it. Like, you just have to. Like, you have to be good at the mental stuff. And so if they don't have that person on their staff, they need to go out and find someone and get with the 21st century and be looking at all these different ways to add to their staff, to find every advantage they have. Now, I'm not saying go out and cheat like Belichick, but I'll still take teams that are looking for every little legal,
Legal way to
edge
win.
that they can find to win. And so, yeah, I think you just have to go out. You have to get a coach in that area, if they don't have one, to help them to be focused and ready to go and play with the right amount of energy from the beginning of the game. I don't think Andy's that person. Maybe he was, maybe he's been that person for them, but clearly it hasn't worked with them, because, coming out amped up has been a thing for a long time. Now we've seen it with, all last year. We had big comeback wins, and those comeback wins were happening because of what? Not much different than what we're seeing right now. The offense not sustaining drives and coming away with points, and the defense letting the other team score at will, just like with the Texans game. So, and that's a perfect example for why I don't think that it's that they're playing with pressure, at least from the defense. I don't think there's any special extra pressure coming from the defense being this bad that the offense is pressing. If anything, the offense is pressing because they've lost confidence in themselves, and they're putting extra pressure on themselves because they don't have that confidence in themselves. I don't think it has anything to do with the defense, because, like I said, look at the Texans game, look at the games before, where they were down big and they came back. They were always known for coming back. And so, part of that was the defensive adjustments and the offense finally getting to the place where they were scoring, they were sustaining drives, they were calming down, they were doing what they needed to do. They're doing that a lot slower now, and most of the time when they're doing it now, they're turning the ball over. That's part of the problem. And so I think it's just, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating, but and I'm not saying the defense isn't to blame, but guess what? The defense has been to blame for the last 3 or 4 years, you know. But the offense has still had some blame in it. I think the biggest thing right now we're seeing, and as for good as the, for as good as Spag's second half adjustments are, you know, we've been okay the last couple of games, but generally I think teams are making counter adjustments in the fourth quarter. And that's my biggest gripe with our coaching staff is they don't seem to be able to make adjustments on the fly. Andy or Spags can't or won't make first quarter adjustments. They won't make second quarter adjustments. They won't make adjustments until halftime. And so then you see other teams are good enough, and I don't want to drag them down, you know, as coaches, but other teams, I should say other teams are doing this. Other teams are making third quarter adjustments or fourth quarter counter adjustments to halftime adjustments that the Chiefs have made. Other teams are able to make first quarter adjustments. Why can't we? Why can't we make first or second quarter or fourth quarter adjustments? We can only seemingly make halftime adjustments. And from what we've seen with our game plans each week, we're not even making adjustments between weeks, really. Like it took Spags until this last time that he was getting a lot of heat from reporters, and Sorensen was getting called out on national television to say, okay, you know, we've really got to go back and look at this and make, you know, we're going to have to make some tweaks in here. And then Spags makes his adjustments, and Thornhill's now seeing more snaps, and Rimmers is in at right tackle, you know. And so why is it we're this far into the season and it takes all of this for adjustments to be made, and we're not seeing between game adjustments, and we're not seeing any adjustments other than, you know, it's like we have the same recycled game plan most of the weeks, with the exception of clearly we game planned to stop Derrick Henry this week. But for most weeks, it's like the same recycled game plan, and the only adjustments we see is at halftime. It's frustrating to me.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Keys.
Well, we're kind of pressing here on time, so we might as well just get to the next and make this the final question. And we will beat the Giants if I think you're laughing because I think you want to repeat the same answer you gave me initially last week. And you can't say if the plane don't land.
Okay, so there might be a little misconception with what I was saying last week when I said the Chiefs would beat the Titans if the Titans plane didn't land. I didn't mean crash. I didn't mean any ill will towards them. I meant like they had to continue to circle the airport and just couldn't get downtime for the game. Now, I didn't know how true that statement was going to be. But we will beat the Giants if Saquon doesn't play and if Danny Dimes doesn't catch another pass. Truly will beat the Giants if Andy Reid has had enough. If he's had enough and he's tired of seeing, like he said, I think the most fire I've seen from Andy, besides when he was yelling at the offense during that one game that we talked about before, Keys, I think the most fire I've seen from him was when he said he didn't like to lose. I believed him because you can see it. But he has to be fed up. He has to be tired enough to say in that old Popeye line, "That's all I can stand. I can't stand no more." You know, it's all of the players look up to him like a father figure and stuff. This has to be embarrassing because, please forgive me for saying this, Belichick doesn't get embarrassed a lot, and Andy Reid is his peer. I mean, if you want to talk brilliant minds, Belichick's probably the greatest defensive coach we've ever seen. Andy might be the best offensive coach we've ever seen. Those guys aren't supposed to be embarrassed. Do they have bad games? Yeah, but not embarrassed. And I think Andy has to finally find his groove. Not find his groove. That's so bad. That's not what I mean. Andy needs to take the reins back from Patrick a little bit and say, look, obviously what we're doing is not working. So this is what we're going to do from now on. You can't audible the rest of this season. He's done that to quarterbacks. I call the play. EB calls the play. You don't get an audible. Snap the ball, make it work. Until you can learn whatever. Take the RPOs out of the game plan. He's not even faking the handoff. They're not scared because they know he's going to pull it to pass it. That's what they do. Take the RPOs out, stick that ball in Darrell's gut, stick it in McKinnon's gut, and let him go. Save your offensive line sometimes. That's it. What do you think?
I'm gonna, before I answer, I'm just gonna ask you a question here then. Do you want to see him run the draw more then?
Couldn't hurt. They're not the Chiefs. The one thing that no team has done is respected the run. Clyde has had 2 games of 100 yards, and we clapped and yay the run game. But the draw will work because they're dropping 7, and they're doing it religiously. And you've got 5 up front to block 4. So you let them block, and you hand it off, let the drop the middle. Remember, we used to do that all the time. Marty Ball, even for Meal, always had that draw play in the repertoire. Why not do it again? Figure out what's wrong with our screen game. Remember, we used to be the best screening team in the league when Andy took over. Like, his screens were innovative and you couldn't stop them. And I don't know what the heck's going on with this team. Anyway, go ahead, Chase.
I might be underestimating the Giants and trying to be optimistic here, but I think we will beat the Giants and if our offense and our defense play at least average football that's turnover free. Like, I think that is all it takes. The offense has to at least just play average and turnover free, in our defense come out and look at least average. Not excellent at stopping the run or the pass, but do an average job at stopping both. And so, I think if we can do those things, and I think that's going to take working on some fundamental things. I think they got to work on identifying the screen, but not being too overreactive, because you don't want to see, you don't want what happened with the Washington touchdown to Ricky Seals-Jones happen. But things like the screen and the quarterback scrambling, I don't think it would hurt for them to bring in some fresh eyes on the offensive side and the defensive side to kind of help them with some self scouting. And be more innovative in that area.
I mean, Nagy's going to get fired soon. Maybe we'll just bring Nagy back.
Yeah. I mean, I've suggested that before to other people, but yeah, I mean, why not? If he gets fired soon, bring him on back. But then again, I mean, Andy hasn't brought Doug back, so you know, I don't know. But
I don't like that. So
I think that that's that we'll win if those things happen here. Um, and I changed my mind. Let's try to do this really quick, and let's try to do it. See how fast we can do it. I don't think it's going to be as hard as other divisions have been so far. So Cowboys. Oh wait, well we should start with the team we're playing. We'll start with the Giants. So who from the Giants would you steal on offense, cut on offense, and who on the defense would you steal and who would you cut?
no crap. Giants, I'd cut Danny Dimes and steal Saquon. For the reasons we talked about off, like Saquon's name alone makes them respect the rim. And we need that. Defense, I was going to say Landon Collins, but he's with Washington. I don't know
You want me to throw
anybody
out
on
some
their
names?
defense. No, I don't know anybody on their
Maybe
defense. So,
Leonard Williams,
no.
um,
I'll leave the I'll
Aziz
leave the defense to you.
Ojulari, Reggie Ragland.
Oh, Reggie! I'd steal Reggie. I love Reggie. They've got that corner I like though. I really got to study up for this one. I never know which one we're gonna do. Um, oh hey, um, just a shout out, just so you guys know, you're gonna see this on Friday, but I guess looks like the former mayor of Missouri just signed up to be a member. So welcome in, Mayor, and all you other members who just signed up. Glad to see y'all. Me and Keys are in the Discord. Be happy to talk to y'all. Keys more than me, but I am in there with everybody else from the RGR crew. And I would still steal Reggie Ragland for the run stop, and I would cut. I would cut. Oh crap! They do have that corner I like. I just can't think of his name. Anyway, go ahead, Keys. You do it.
Okay, yeah, maybe the mayor just wanted to hear you and Ryan cuss, so to get that after dark
After
content.
dark, that rogue life coming in, baby. Anyway, go ahead, man.
Yeah, we do have some great discussions in the Discord, though, guys. So if you're not a member yet, I mean, I think we're at the point that you can be at the lowest levels of membership, or at least is it rookie or starter, whatever. I don't know. We need Aaron to come in here and moderate for us. All right. Yeah, you kind of stole my thing with adding a running back on this team. Um, I think I'm going to go in a different direction though and go with Evan Ingram just because he's kind of a speedy tight end, and so you pair him with Travis and get Pat to look over the middle instead of deep. One of these guys should be open, and you can get some big playability out of them on the offense. Um, I would go ahead and cut Danny Dimes just because most of these teams, yeah, their backup quarterback is Mike Glennon. What are you going to do? Uh, no offense, Mike Glennon, but I
Plenty
mean,
of offense from me, Mike Glennon.
most of these guys are backups for a reason. I think on defense, this one's it's a little bit harder for me. I think I'm either going to take, um, oh, who did I say? I would either take Leonard Williams, just because I want to keep throwing stuff at the defensive line, or Aziz Ojulari, their rookie, and try to help improve the defense any way we can, basically. But anyway, let's make this a little bit easier here. We should be able to do Dallas pretty fast, I think. You want to go first, or?
Yep, I'd take Zeke, cut Dak, I'd take Trayvon Diggs, and cut LaMarcus. Is it no DeMarcus? DeMarcus, I'm sorry.
Marcus Lawrence.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I said this, and I think that this is actually maybe harder because I think there's about 6 players on both sides of the ball that I could legitimately take. Um, I think with Zeke, you don't even have to run, but because of Zeke's prior um, reputation, teams automatically would have to respect the threat of the run more, and that's kind of where you were going with Saquon. But since you stole that from me from our pre recording discussion there, um,
Which
but
I didn't
at
know
the same
before y'all get in
time,
the comments and be like, dang, Gucci stole Keys' idea. I did not know we were doing this one. Like we had said we were going to end. He stuck this in. So I'm not just like an idea stealer. Okay. It's not me.
and then you have CeeDee Lamb and you have Cooper, and so like you can. I mean, it's hard. You could add receivers on there, but I think for me, I have to go with Smith, the left tackle, and you know I don't disrespect to Orlando Brown Jr., but Smith is like one of the premier left tackles when he's healthy in the league, and so that's kind of my biggest concern on the offense. Maybe wide receiver number 2, which would be our third receiver. But I think get your left tackle, let Patrick feel better. Of course, you still don't want him to take the 10-yard drops, but Smith can probably still handle that better than Orlando Brown, who, by the way, someone posted his raw athletic score on Twitter, and let's just say this might be the first time in my life that I can compete with a professional athlete in terms of athleticism. So we'll leave it at that. On the defensive side, I mean, it's tempting to say Diggs, but again, it's kind of the same thing with the offense. I come back to the defensive line and the linebackers and the pass rush specifically. So would I take Randy Gregory or would I take Micah Parsons? Put one of those two on there, like increase the ability on our front seven. Um, you know, I think I'm going to take Micah Parsons and I'm going to cut Diggs and then watch that defense like become much worse. And I know you look confused. I know Diggs is your boy. Diggs is what, leading the NFL in interceptions right now. But with our defensive line and our linebackers, our lack of pass rush, would he still be able to do that?
Oh,
And
way
with
teams are throwing on us probably.
and with and with Spags wanting to put a lesser talented cornerback on our starting lineup, would teams just throw to the opposite side of the field?
Good point.
They would just avoid Diggs altogether. And so I'm going to take Parsons. You put Parsons, whether you line him up off the edge, whether you line him with Willie Gay and Bolton, to me, like that improves something we don't have on this team and gives the defense even more speed that we're sorely lacking. And then maybe your really cheap secondary looks a little bit better. Now, I'm not going to say that's the right way to go. Clearly, having Diggs and last year's L'Jarius Sneed with a healthy Thornhill and Matthew makes a ton of sense. How about we move on to the Eagles?
Okay, so as an Alabama fan, and yes, I am an Alabama fan, it pains me that I cannot remember the receiver's name.
Devonta Smith?
Thank you. Lord knows I pine for him to come to the Chiefs too. So I would obviously snatch Devontae, and I would cut Jalen, just because he's getting. Nope. That's a lie. I'd take Devontae, and I'd cut Jason Kelsey. That guy has a string going of how many starts he's had. He's also the leader of that offensive line, and he's a vet. I want to break up that offensive line so I can just pin my ears back and go after Jalen for turning on Alabama and going to Oklahoma. On defense, that is so petty. I'm sorry. On defense, there's nobody on that defense that I like. Nope, there's nobody on that defense that I like. I honestly probably wouldn't steal nobody from their defense. They do have that safety though that's really good that I would cut. He intercepted Mahomes. I just can't. Is it Morton is his last name? That's not right.
You said safety?
Safety or corner. He picked that pass off in the end zone.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He's been playing really well. I just can't think of his name. They don't have anybody that steal, but I know I'd cut that kid because he actually has some talent. But we have talent if we just use it correctly at that one position. I'm really bad this week, guys, so I'm gonna bounce at the Keys. Go ahead, Keys, your turn.
All right. Well, you stole my offensive picks, so I'm gonna change it. So I'm gonna take Smith. I'm gonna take Smith as well. Although I will say this kid, from what I've seen of him so far, and I've seen a bit of him because I have Jalen Hurts as my fantasy quarterback. Mainly because I was the last one in our RGR draft to take a quarterback, and so
I got Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers.
I've watched, some people took 2 or 3 quarterbacks before I took my first quarterback because they needed. But anyway, so I've seen a few Eagles games now, and this kid, like, I swear it's like half of his passes he should get a flag for OPI. But anyway, I digress. I would still take him. And I'm going to cut Jalen because his legs can kill you. And so I think if you make the Eagles less mobile in that area, and I could be wrong, but I think if you do that, it kind of hurts their offense, whereas he makes stuff out of nothing. So, well, man, I don't know though, because their backup is Gardner Minshew, right? Gardner Minshew. And I think he's probably a pretty good backup. This is hard. This is the first time I think we've had a team where the backup quarterback seemed like he could do a pretty good job if he stepped in.
Well, I mean, there was Joe Flacco, but he went to the Jets just this week.
Yeah. So maybe I'll just keep it and I'll copy you. On the defensive side,
great minds think alike.
I haven't really watched Darius Slade to see if he still kept his talent that he had with the Lions or not. I'm surprised you didn't cut Steven Nelson just out of spite, since you're such a spiteful person.
He's playing on the Eagles. It don't get much worse.
I want to say I would steal either Fletcher Cox or Javon Hargrave to upgrade our defensive line. I think Fletcher Cox with Jones would definitely make things a little bit better, or Hargrave too. So I'm not even going to pick one. I'm going to say I'll steal one and I'll cut the other one. So we can move on now. Let's move out of the way here and let's hit the football team.
All right. I would cut Ricky Seals-Jones because he thought he was going to try and have a good game against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago, and I am petty like that. And I would steal Taylor Heineke just to be a cheap backup for Mahomes. Plus, he's got the grit. Like, he's got the will to win, and you want that. Like, say if, God forbid, Mahomes gets hurt, and yes, anything was possible last year, but Henny is like 37. And I like Heineke's moxie. And on the other side, it really was a toss-up for me, so I'm going to pull a U, and I'm going to throw something at the defensive line, which is, oh, my God. I am really drawing a blank. Oh, my God.
Chase Young?
Yes, thank you. Chase Young, and I would cut Landon Collins. Now, it really was hard for me because when he left the Giants, I really wanted him to come here, and I thought that Spags was going to be kind of like the deal sealer, and Matthew being this, it almost sounds like Matthew's an afterthought, but he wasn't, because I wouldn't have paid Landon Collins $80 million. No way, no way. So the fact that he spurned the Chiefs to go to Washington and suck instead of coming to be with the Chiefs, I'd cut Landon and take Chase Young. Your turn.
Okay. I'm going to steal Terry McLaurin, and I'm going to cut Antonio Gibson, and we'll see what Heineke can do without those two guys on his offense. On defense, man, it's pretty much a no-brainer with Chase Young, but there's still, Kendall Fuller was such a, like, the way we used him in 2019, like, it would really help our defense to get back to some of what they had when Spags was able to move him out to safety at times, use him in the slot, just the versatility that he had and Spags was able to have. Like, in my mind, if he could get that with Snead, who did play some safety his senior year in college, or was it junior, whatever, his last year in college. You have Snead, who has that experience. You have Fuller, who had that experience with us. You take Tyron, who was played kind of in that, similar way, at slot, safety, linebacker, all these different ways for Tyron. And then you add in Thornhill. I think having those four in the secondary makes it a really intriguing secondary. But since I've already talked about the defensive line being the issues, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick with Chase Young as well. And so then I have to have them cut Kendall Fuller, I think. All right, well, that's all we got for today. Well, we got more, but we don't have the time. We can't be here for 4 hours or 5 hours. But anyway,
wait till the draft.
You wanna send us on our way? Human super chat.
Absolutely. But before I do that, I want to point out, hey Avery, we didn't forget you, brother. We just ran a little long, but we're going to cover who we would have drafted in place of the draft picks we got and who we wouldn't have. I'm just going to tell you from my perspective right now, Cornell Powell is the only one I wouldn't have drafted, brother. But we'll get into that on the next one. We appreciate all of y'all who watch this content, whether religiously or in passing. Want to give a shout out to the big dog, Ryan. Go check out RGR. Look at all the other videos. Locked on Chiefs. I think he's doing a draft show now on YouTube. There's also the Homebrew. Dan has his film on Wednesdays, rants on Tuesdays, live stream on Mondays, Q&A after the games. Chief in the North on Thursday with Seth Kaiser. I mean, we're here all week. So check out the RGR store, get some merchandise, tell somebody you love them, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah, and before we leave, we also want to give a shout out to Joe Cunningham, who, even though this is a recorded show and you guys are able to watch a premiere instead of a live, Joe actually gave us a super chat during the premiere. So we want to shout out Joe and thank him for supporting RGR football. Clearly that money doesn't go to us. It goes to Ryan and the show. And so we do this to support the show. And so we're always happy when you guys are supporting the show. And we're excited that we apparently said something that made one of you guys excited to support the show as well. So with that said, you can find
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, if you do that, throw a question in there and, we'll cover it. We got you.
Yeah, we'll cover it. It might have to be the next episode or the episode after that, but we'll make sure to cover it as well. And anyway, I was going to say, you can find Gooch's Twitter down here. Gooch just got on Twitter, so it's pretty easy to figure out. And that's my Twitter as well. You can follow us. You can dialogue with us as well on Twitter, since we finally got the old man in Twitter. So with that said, thank you guys for watching, and peace out, guys.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more, and subscribe to RGR Football.